Hi, my name's Megan. I'm 46 years old, and last year I was diagnosed with stage 3 cholangiocarcinoma or bile duct cancer. It started in probably March, April of last year, so not long after we went into lockdown. I started getting some back pain and hip pain and a slight niggle underneath my right rib. It was nothing too worrying, so I kept with it, and over the next month or so it got worse. So I contacted the doctor, but was obviously very aware and conscious of them being stretched to the limit with COVID. And eventually I was referred to a physio for through the phone, a telephone appointment. He did various exercises with me. He said, "I don't think this is an injury." So a bit longer went on. The pain under my rib got slightly worse. It wasn't terrible, but I was starting to use pain relief. And so I called the doctors again, and they called me in for some blood tests. And these blood tests showed that I had very low vitamin D levels, and my liver functions were all elevated and completely off. So we still weren't really worried at this point. So I tried some more pain relief. Another few weeks went, and I was finding it a lot more difficult to sort of go for my walks and exercise generally. So eventually the doctor called me in and said, "I think it would be best if I just have an examination." And she felt round and said, "I'm not really very happy with this. There was some swelling in between my rib cage." And so she put me on what's called an urgent pathway. And within 2 weeks, I would be seen or spoken to by a doctor at hospital. So as it happened, one Sunday I was really quite bad and in a lot of pain. So we went to A&E, and they carried out a series of scans. So the first one I had was a ultrasound, and it showed a shadow on my liver. So straight away I got sent down for an MRI scan, and then the following day I went for a CT scan. So this was all very fast, within a couple of days, and a week later, on the 4th of August, I sat down in the room in hospital and was told of my diagnosis. So it was incredibly scary and came as a great shock, because I thought at worst it would be maybe a hernia. So we really weren't expecting this, and I felt very numb at the time and definitely went into shock. So luckily my partner was with me, and he was able to absorb all the information that I just couldn't. We were not really given much information at that time about bile duct cancer. The doctor who gave me the diagnosis really didn't understand it, and so he gave us a leaflet, and off we went and came back home. And that's when I started looking online, and the facts and statistics surrounding bile duct cancer is really scary. I'd never heard of this cancer before, as many people haven't. So I found the fear of a cancer I'd never heard of, on top of the statistics and, really poor prognosis, quite overwhelming. Luckily I had a biopsy a few weeks later just to confirm it was cancer, which it did. And then by September I started on chemotherapy, which was the first standard line of treatment. I found it incredibly difficult those first few weeks because you have all your family that are coming to terms with your diagnosis. Everything I read was very scary. I felt very fearful at first. But eventually I was able to connect to other people and get more of an understanding of how it had affected others, which I found incredibly helpful. I did find that many of the oncologists and my GP as well really didn't have any knowledge of this cancer, real knowledge, and they admitted as much because it's so rare. And so luckily I was able to, as I prepared, sort of accepted the diagnosis and prepared for what was to come, I was able to thankfully turn to the AMMF charity website. So through the AMMF charity website, I was able to read other people's stories and look up various treatments. And what I found most was it gave me a lot of hope. There were treatments, there was clinical trials that had not been discussed with me. So I really was going into this blind, and I was able to learn so much more about the treatments available, upcoming clinical trials you could get involved with. And so it just gave me a lot of hope. I found reading and connecting to other people who were going through this cancer incredibly helpful. And I would certainly recommend that to anybody who just been diagnosed.